I've explored some of the wildest places on Earth, but my favourite is still Britain. In this series, I'm going to travel from dawn till dusk, carving 6 individual trails through spectacular, diverse landscapes in order to explore each unique habitat and the incredible wildlife that exists there. I'll journey along rivers, navigate my way through forests and across mountains in search of some of our greatest national treasures. This week, I'm on Dartmoor. I love this rugged landscape. It's possibly my favourite national park. In this part of Devon, there is a unique blend of natural history and ancient history. From the spectacular granite tors that top off so many of Dartmoor's hills, to the amazing Bronze Age architecture scattered across the countryside. Thousands of years of farming have created a distinctive moorland environment, while the rich valley woodlands are home to many rare and endangered species. I'm looking forward to following in the footsteps of our ancestors as I make my way through this stunning English landscape. My journey starts on the rugged peaks at the north of Dartmoor. This is High Will Hayes, the highest point in the national park, 621 metres above sea level. Today, the view is spectacular. I love coming here. There's a tremendous sense of expansiveness. There's always a wind, and it's challenging. I really like that. This is where I first learnt to navigate, roaming from tor to tor across the moors with a map and compass. And this tough terrain is still used today as a training ground for our armed forces. This section of the national park is a firing range, closed off to the public when training exercises are underway. But today, we have special permission to come and film in this area. The military have been here for about 200 years, and there are some fascinating artifacts that date back to some of the previous conflicts, like this railway here. This was part of a range used in the Second World War. If I follow this rail, it leads to this shed here built of local stone. Now, normally this is locked, but on this special occasion, I have permission to go inside and take a look. Now look at that. This is Captain. This is a range engine that during the Second World War used to run down these rails, towing behind it a trailer on which was a target of a tank that troops could shoot at using a variety of different weapons. Today, the ranges are still active, and if there are warning signs saying don't go into this area or red flags up, pay close attention to it, because you wouldn't want to be on the receiving end. While British soldiers were going through their manoeuvres on the high moors 200 years ago, thousands of their French enemies were under lock and key just a few miles away. Dartmoor Prison was built in the early 1800s to house prisoners of war during the Napoleonic Wars. It is still in use for low-security inmates today. Neil Cole's farm sits in the shadow of the prison. His family have worked the land here for generations. Neil is taking me to see his horses out grazing on the common to the south of the prison.
We're on the way out to Whiteworks, where I got a bunch of ponies. It's not always guaranteed, but generally this is where they live and stay because they've been born and bred there. So we should be able to find them.
The ponies, of course, they're iconic, aren't they? I mean, everyone thinks of Dartmoor and the ponies.
Yeah, well, they're not just iconic. They are part of the moors. The ponies have teeth top and bottom on their jaw, on their front. So they nibble, you know, the rushes, the gorse, and the cattle and sheep just won't graze that. The moors look the way they do because there's Dartmoor ponies. I think they're just down there.
What are we going to do? We're going to walk over or...?
Walk over,
Yeah, sounds good.
They see people,
Yeah.
they'll try and disappear.
And there's lots of dead ground.
Yeah. And they know the land a lot better than what we do.
Exactly.
There is much debate about what a Dartmoor pony really is. A classic pedigree animal must be of a particular colour, size and shape. But most of the horses that live out on the moors are not pedigree ponies.
Don't get too close.
For many of the farmers who keep horses on the common, the important thing is to have an animal that can survive year-round in this harsh environment.
I mean, these ponies have been here all winter with no hay, no supplement feed.
They look well.
And they're still looking pretty well.
Yeah.
As you can see, there's not much shelter, so that's why they've got to have a really thick, rugged coat to keep the rain and the cold weather out.
By golly, they're hardy animals.
Yeah. Hopefully, if we just walk up round here, we should be able to try and see a pretty little foal.
Oh, yeah, look at that. That's lovely. That's really lovely, isn't it?
If we just walk down around,
Just nice and gentle. How old is this foal?
I would have said he's 12 hours old, max. You can see his coat's still a little bit wrinkly, where he's just dried out and it's just still where the afterbirth was on him.
Not yet a day old.
No.
He's still unsteady on his feet, look.
Yeah.
Back in the 1930s, there were up to 25,000 ponies on Dartmoor. Now there are only about 1,000 left. The price of livestock has dropped so much that these horses have little more than sentimental value.
I mean, people say, why do you keep them? But still gives us that little buzz.
Oh,
seeing the
beautiful.
foals.
It's really lovely.
You know, it's something that I just hope to God that my children and grandchildren will continue. It's certainly something that should be preserved. Definitely.
Now I'm moving on from the grazed moors and granite tors of Dartmoor's uplands to drop down to a small oak woodland on the banks of the West Dart.
I always remember the first time I came to Dartmoor, I was really impressed by all this granite. It feels invulnerable, but actually it's not. The more you come to know them more, the more you realise it's in a constant state of flux. In fact, all of the tors on the moor are being broken down by the weather itself into much smaller pieces, which then sometimes roll downhill like this, and you end up with what the locals call clitter. And you can see what an amazing landscape this is. It's so broken, it's almost impossible to stand up in. And that makes it difficult for the animals too. And as a consequence of that, the trees that grow here have had some protection. And we've ended up with this fairy grotto-like wood.
This is Wistman's Wood, one of the highest oaklands in Britain and an important shelter for lichen and moss.
I really like places like this. The moss is like the perfect material for some things to grow in. This is wood sorrel. It's nothing particularly special, it's very common. It has a leaf that looks like clover, and that tastes of apple peel. It's really nice. That was the first wild plant that I ever tasted. From the day I tasted that, I've been hooked on things that you can eat. But of course you have to know what you're doing. You can't just go out and eat anything, because there are poisonous things that grow here too. But there are other things we found here, things that I wonder whether the ancient peoples of Dartmoor made use of. This one here is called, there's a Latin name, usnea, because it contains an acid called usnic acid, which is really good for treating fungal infections and cuts. And up here we've got polypody, this fern. The roots of this, boiled up in milk, have been used to treat sore throats. But I'm going to leave it because a place like this is very special. If you come here, just look. Don't even leave too many footprints.
Mossy woodlands are also rich habitats for animal life. So as night falls, I'm heading downstream to another riverside forest in search of a creature which has survived in this area since the Ice Age, the blue ground beetle.
Okay, John, I've got my map here.
John Walters is going to help me track down this rare insect.
This beetle loves really moist, humid, damp woodlands, which is sitting in the river valley here. They are nice and damp, and it's a lovely damp evening as well.
Well, let's go and have a look.
Almost the entire British population of the blue ground beetle are found in oak forests on Dartmoor.
They hide away during the daytime, often at the base of the tree amongst bits of moss and in the soil.
Yep.
And then they emerge at dusk and start to climb up the trees.
Is that because they're pursuing their prey?
That's right. They particularly like tree slugs, which feed on the sort of lichens and mosses which grow on the trees.
Yeah. So we're looking for a beetle that can actually track. Big slug here, John.
Oh yeah, that's a big whopping one, isn't it? This is an Aryan slug. One of the identification features of this particular one, and I don't know who found this out, but if you stroke the slug from its head end to the tail, it will waggle its body from side to side. You can see it doing it now, yeah.
Now.
There it goes.
It's amazing. It's like got some disco bit going on.
That's right. This is a slug which spends most of its time on the ground, but the ones we're looking for, that the beetle particularly likes, are the ones which climb up into the trees. So they're different species, but we should be able to find some of those. Check all the trees as we go by.
Oh, there's a slug.
This is a big slug here, Ray. This is the ash black slug, which is full grown. It's the world's biggest slug. It can grow up to about a foot long, about 30 centimetres long,
I've
fully
never
stretched
seen it. Have you seen that?
See one's about 20 centimetres long.
Wow.
But the beetle doesn't seem sort of put off. It just grabs hold of the slug, tries to get away, but once the beetle's got it, it's doomed.
It looks like this slug has got lucky tonight. No beetles have picked up its scent. But we are obviously on the right track.
Right,
Yeah.
I've got one here. This is the blue ground beetle. It's an absolutely stunning creature.
Wow, look at that. That's huge. Look at that. That's amazing.
As you see, it's trying to bite me there. So they have a very narrow front end, but very long jaws.
Aren't they just?
And really are quite impressive.
There we go. Look at that.
I mean, this has always been a rare beetle. It was first found in Britain in 1811, and then it wasn't seen for many years, and people thought it was extinct. And there was, in fact, a reward of £5, which was a small fortune in those days, put up for anyone who could rediscover this beetle in Britain. And eventually, a lady found one, but she only actually got £3 and a few shillings because it was slightly damaged. Which I thought she was a bit hard done by, I thought, yeah.
It's been fascinating to see the rich wildlife of Dartmoor's ancient oak woodlands. But I can't wait to get back out onto the hill. I'm on Dartmoor, the largest and wildest area of open country in the south of England. It's a place I've returned to many times since first learning to navigate across this landscape as a young man.
Coming to Dartmoor is always exciting because my two favourite things are found here. Natural history and ancient history. In fact, you can literally trip across the remains of people's lives from thousands of years ago.
Dartmoor has the largest concentration of Bronze Age remains in the UK. The most famous is probably Grimm's Pound, one of nearly 500 enclosed settlements found in the national park.
This pile of rocks isn't a natural feature. This is actually a wall. It's a man-made structure. And up here is an entranceway. Take a look at this. Now, this wall was quite a construction. It's estimated this was 1.7 metres high. And those are big, heavy granite boulders. This was a lot of work. And it was put up almost certainly to look after cattle in this enclosure. Today, the weather's pretty wet, but back when this was constructed, it was a different climate. Then it was warmer and drier. And these hills would have been really good grazing land for cattle, hence these communities. What's amazing is that inside this incredible enclosure, you can still find the homes of the people who lived here. This is a hut circle. And you can see, this was once a home.
There are 24 hut circles in this 3,500-year-old site, and about half of these buildings had hearths, which suggests that people lived in them.
Over the top, there would have been a conical thatched roof. I can almost smell it, I can smell the smoke. Eventually, the climate changed. Things became colder and wetter. And where there'd once been good grazing, now peat grew. The people were forced to move away. Well, at least that's what we think happened. What we do know is that they left this incredible, mysterious site for future generations to ponder over and to enjoy. That's the magic of Dartmoor. There's so much history here. You can let your imagination run riot.
For the next stage of my journey, I'm heading east from Grimspound to a small forest on the edge of the national park. Yarner Wood was England's first national nature reserve, and it's home to one of the longest-running nest box schemes in the country. Boxes were first put up in 1955. Malcolm Burgess monitors bird numbers at the site. He puts rings onto the chicks that hatch in the boxes in the woods, like these young tawny owls. This enables him to identify individual birds without interfering with them after this one initial contact.
Good morning, Malcolm. How are you?
Morning, Ray.
Nice to see you.
Okay, yeah.
Malcolm is currently investigating wood warbler activity in the reserve.
Just had one up there. Getting closer.
We're close, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's like treasure hunting. It's a lovely call, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah,
it's a real sign of spring for me.
This once common forest bird is just starting to arrive from Africa, and, like many long-distance migrants, it is in severe decline.
There we go. Just seeing it move there, yeah.
Yep. Just see how good the camouflage is. Because the green on the back of the wood warbler is exactly the colour of the moss you get on trees.
Yeah.
The UK population of this beautiful songbird has dropped by more than 2/3 since the 1990s.
I love the way they sing and they throw their heads back and really send that sound out. It's fantastic to watch. Their chests full of the joys of spring.
More research is needed to find out why the wood warbler is under threat, so Malcolm tracks the progress of every new arrival to Yarner Wood.
This is an unringed wood warbler which we'd like to catch so we can follow it during the breeding season.
So you've come out specifically to catch this wood warbler?
Exactly, yeah, yeah.
Unlike the owl chicks, this wood warbler first appeared in the forest as an adult, so Malcolm has to catch it in order to ring it. He'll put up a net and then lure his target with a recording of another wood warbler singing.
Very sneaky. So here we go. So the sound's running.
That's right.
I like these moments, these quiet moments when you're waiting for something to happen. They're the best times. He's getting closer.
That's where we want it. Want it to fly left now. And we have to hope that he comes low enough.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Bingo.
Oh, there he is. The bird isn't harmed by the netting.
It isn't.
And you have to be specially trained to do all of this.
Exactly, yeah. There we go.
There we go. But the work that you're doing is vitally important.
It is. We've been doing this for several years, so we can look at the return rate, the survival, how many come back from one year to the next, bearing in mind that this bird is going to fly to Western Africa after it's bred, and then hopefully come back to Dartmoor
It's a real traveller,
next year.
One.
Yeah.
Now, can I see your passport, please? Beautiful.
With loving care, Malcolm rings, measures, and weighs his catch.
8.2 grams this one weighs.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
You know, jumbo jet may be impressive, but you try making a machine at 8.2 grams that could fly to Africa. You going to release it?
Yep.
Go back and find his feet. Oh, hey.
Yes.
You know, when you see a creature so close up, you can't but wonder at the miracle of nature. Well, this is where my journey ends, and we're better than one of the windy granite tors of Dartmoor. I have a special connection with this national park. This is where I really started to learn to navigate. And on bigger journeys in wilder places, I often think back to those days roaming across the moors from tor to tor. But it's been great to come with a different intention and to see the wildlife here. That giant beetle, the blue ground beetle, what an incredible thing that is. The archaeology too, that will stay in my memory for a long while. But also the other things like the iconic ponies and learning about their important role here in this fragile ecosystem. Next time I will be canoeing on the mighty River Thames through the Oxfordshire countryside. Feel nature's energy here. It's like plugging into a great big battery. And I have privileged access to a secret forest to camp overnight.